On the edge of Calabar, an old river port in Nigeria south-south, the state government once set out to build an entirely new economy, an ambitious project called Tinapa. The complex had a shopping mall and wholesale district at its center, row of trading halls where merchants from across West Africa could buy goods in bulk, duty-free. Around it sat a hotel with hundreds of rooms, a water park, a man-made lake, a film studio designed for Nollywood. A monorail connected the main buildings and the only one ever built in the country as at then. The entire site carried free trade zone status, meaning imported goods could be sold there without custom duties. It was meant to turn Cross River State into the trading capital of West Africa. Today, it feels less like a mega project and more like an abandoned civilization. And this wasn't just some abandoned blueprints that never left the drawing board. Tinapa was built, finished, opened with presidential fanfare. Nigeria's sitting president flew in for the launch. Between $350 and $600 million had been poured into the project, and within just a few years, much of it was abandoned. The official story is that Tinapa was neglected and later damaged during the unrest in 2020. Both of these things are true, but neither is the real reason it failed. By the time the looting happened, the resort had already been struggling for years, and if you look at the original plan, the document behind the project, the reason becomes clear. And hidden in the very plans that created it was a major contradiction, one that may have caused the project to fail from the very beginning. Donald Duke had a problem most governors never faced. The thing his state ran on was vanishing, and the courts were taking it away faster than he could fight for it. When Duke took office in 1999, Cross River still counted itself among Nigeria's oil-producing states. Offshore wells meant a share of national oil money, the lifeblood of almost every state budget in the country. Then the map changed. In 2002, the International Court of Justice, the United Nations top court for disputes between countries, awarded the oil-rich Bakassi Peninsula, a wedge of land at the mouth of Cross River, to neighboring Cameroon. That really did more than hand over territory to another country. It reduced Cross River's coastline. And in the years that followed, Nigeria's own court found that the state was no longer coastal at all, which meant the offshore wells and the revenue that came with them were attributed to the state next door, Akwa Ibom. More than 2 decades on, Cross River is still fighting that decision. But for Duke, sitting in the governor's office in the mid-2000s, the argument was already lost in every way that counted. His state's single largest source of income was draining away, well by well. So he made a choice. He could spend years, maybe decades, fighting over wells in courts, or he could build Cross River as an economy that didn't need oil in the first place. The plan was built around 3 ideas that many people in Nigeria at that time barely believed could succeed: tourism, leisure, and trade. But the trade was where the real challenge started. Duke needed the area to become a free trade zone, duty-free, open to global goods. That status was what could have made the entire project succeed. It was also one thing no state government could fully control on its own. If you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please like and subscribe. Now let's go back to the video. The site Duke chose was 265 hectares of land at Adiabo, on the edge of Calabar, open country beside the river. The plan was to build from nothing an integrated business and leisure resort. At the center of the project was a large wholesale and retail complex, rows of shopping malls built to attract traders from across the region. Around it, they built a resort with a lakeside hotel, a water park, an artificial lake connected to the river, an entertainment area with a casino, and a film studio for Nollywood. There was also a conference center and a monorail running through the site. When it launched, it was promoted as Africa's first integrated business and leisure resort, a claim that is difficult to fully verify, but one that shows just how ambitious this project was. To make the trading side of the project work, Duke needed one more thing: special legal status. So on 15 August 2006, the federal government declared Tinapa a free trade zone, meaning goods could, in theory, be imported and sold here without the usual custom duties. The promise was simple: come to Tinapa, buy foreign goods, and take up to 50,000 Naira worth of item home without paying import duties. Then on 2nd April 2007, President Olusegun Obasanjo arrived in Calabar to officially open the first phase of the project. For a short time, the plan seemed to work. Tourists visited, shop opened, film crew used the studios. In Cross River, Tinapa was seen as a proof that the Nigerian government could build something modern and world-class. Here was the problem built into Tinapa from the beginning. A free trade zone is controlled by the federal government. Under Nigerian law, only the federal government can fully regulate and operate one. But Tinapa was not a federal project. It was planned, funded, and owned by Cross River State government. That created a serious problem. Tinapa's entire business model depended on duty-free trade, but the rules were controlled by a federal government customs system that was never fully aligned with how the project was meant to operate. For a while, this problem stayed in the background, then it became impossible to ignore. Around 2013, the Nigeria Customs Service began treating goods leaving Tinapa like normal imports, requiring custom duties to be paid. This changed everything. The main reason people came to Tinapa was to buy goods without paying the usual import charges. Once that advantage disappeared, the project lost its biggest selling point. A shopping and trading center far outside Nigeria's main commercial cities could no longer compete on price. Traders understood this immediately. Many shops stopped selling goods, worried that moving stock out of the zone could lead to custom problems. A duty-free shopping center where goods were no longer truly duty-free. And there was another problem. Tinapa is not easy to reach. The main road connecting Calabar were in poor condition for years. The shipping route into Calabar ports required regular dredging, but this was not always done, making sea transport slow and expensive. The airport also handled far fewer flights than major hubs like Lagos or Abuja. A trading hub only works if people and goods can move easily. At Tinapa, that was never simple. So the foundation of the entire project, cheap goods, move easily, and large volume, slowly collapsed. Nothing explained Tinapa's story better than the monorail. It was built to move visitors between Calabar Convention Center and the resort, just over 1 kilometer of track, and at the time, the only monorail in Nigeria. But it did not open until 2016, almost a decade after the resort itself. By the following year, a state official said the monorail had earned just 83,000 Naira in ticket sales for the entire year, roughly $275 at the time. He said it made the journey back and forth every day with no passengers. It shut down in 2017. A monorail with no passengers is simply an expensive symbol of a project that never worked. By then, Tinapa's financial problem had become serious. Cross River State had borrowed heavily to build the resort, but as the expected income never came, the debt became difficult to manage. The project eventually came under the control of AMCOM, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, the federal agency created to take over bad debts from failing projects and institutions. That created another problem. The state had built Tinapa, but no longer fully controlled it. Under later governors, attention shifted elsewhere. Governor Liye Imoke tried to get the federal government involved to resolve Tinapa's legal and financial problems. But under the next administration led by Ben Ayade, much of the resort was left to rot. Then came October 2020. During the End SARS protest, nationwide demonstration against police brutality that in some places turned into widespread looting. Cross River said state assets suffered major damage. At Tinapa, the hotel was heavily vandalized. Much of what remained in the shopping complex was taken, but the protest did not destroy Tinapa. By then, the project had already been in decline for years. The looting simply damaged what was left. By the end of 2020, many saw Tinapa as a failed dream, a huge ambitious project built on an idea that never worked in practice. It looked like the end, but it wasn't. Then came something almost no one expected. On 7th November 2005, the Cross River State government announced that it had taken back Tinapa from AMCOM after about 14 years. The debts were settled, the ownership issue were resolved, and the resort returned to full state control. Governor Basi Otu, who took office in 2023, said this was not simply a ceremonial handover, it was a fresh start. According to him, the goal was not to preserve Tinapa as a reminder of past ambition, but to bring it back into use as a working business asset. The government also said it was already in discussion with private investors in agriculture, manufacturing, logistics, and hospitality. The reason this still matters is simple. The infrastructure is still there. Most of the building remains standing. Tinapa is still one of the largest purpose-built commercial developments in Nigeria, covering 265 hectares. It was fully built, and after more than a decade, it is now back in the hands of the state that created it. But ownership was never the main problem. The real problem is the same one that existed from the beginning. Tinapa did not fail because of looting, empty monorail, or poor roads. They were just evidence of a deeper structural problem. The real problem was the gap between a state government that built a free trade zone and a federal system that controlled whether that free trade zone would actually operate as intended. If that problem is solved, Cross River may have recovered something very valuable, a fully built large-scale resort and commercial center that could still work. But if the problem remains, the same issue that caused Tinapa to fail before could happen again. For now, the project has another chance. Whether people return this time is the question Cross River has spent hundreds of millions of dollars and nearly 20 years trying to answer. If you like content like this, kindly like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.